And we are indeed live on Facebook. Welcome to another New Jersey Constitutional Republicans virtual conversation. It's my great pleasure tonight to have Elizabeth Nader with me. Elizabeth, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you, JR. It's an honor to be on here. You and I spoke the other day, and I think we could have talked for hours. So I'm thrilled that you asked me, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
That's right. And as we begin, I'd like to have our audience get to know you better and what you're doing and a big event that you're going to you have planned for April the 28th. But before we get into that, I would like to, let's see here. I did have it up. Just give me 1 second here, if you would. Elizabeth, here we go. And there is your website.
Wow, there it is.
People should, it's a very, very nice website, very well laid out. And there's a lot of great information on here, elizabethnader.com. So we'll provide these links at the end of this virtual conversation with Elizabeth. But I would direct people to go to your website, Elizabeth, and learn about a lot of what you're doing. And one of the roles that you're filling is as a coach and an author and a speaker. You've written a book.
I have written a book. I am finishing my doctorate in theology, but I'm also an entrepreneur and a business person by experience and training. And I brought those two together into a mindset book. And it's funny, JR, because I have had that out for a while and been teaching corporations and individuals, all kind of people. And lately, in the past 2 years, have been using my approach to helping high performers get their ideas to win. I've been using that with political candidates. Can you believe that? So that has been a recent addition of my clientele, but it's something that I love to do. And it's really, my life's work. But now the political part of it, ironically, is coming in. But, no surprise, because my whole thing here is about telling yourself the truth, about overcoming limiting beliefs, because we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves about who we are because the world tells us who we are. And it's not always good, right? We lie to ourselves based on things that we go through. And what I find is my passion is for telling the truth. And it's the same passion I have in the political realm, and the love I have for this country is, I believe once we embrace truth, and I believe there is truth, that will bring us back to the foundations from where we came. And so it's interesting how in life sometimes everything comes together for a purpose, and then that purpose even evolves. So now I'm finding it even evolving here, which is interesting.
Well, this is certainly, you are the mindset maven. That's a great nickname. And right here, by wanting to guiding high performers to map their mindset to their message so that they can effectively express who they are and why their ideas should win. Sounds like I should be signing up for your services, Elizabeth.
Well, you can get the book. I'll tell you what, JR, that book, every chapter has a lot of activities and work. So this isn't just another good idea, another positive thought. This is making you dig in to the way God made you, to the way your mindset works, to understanding where your limiting beliefs come from so that you can progress in life, because we all have a purpose here. All of us do, and you're serving yours. I'm trying to serve mine, but in doing so, we come up against things that hold us back, and a lot of things that are designed to hold us back, because our enemy in this world doesn't want us to be effective and doesn't want us to be walking in the truth. And that's why there's so many lies out there right now, why people are so confused, is because, if we can obscure the truth, and we can hold people back. So that's my passion. And so I think it's for everyone. And if you ask my kids, it's all I ever talk about. I think they've had it with mindset, but I expect them someday to fight like I'm fighting for this country, use these ideals to live a good life and to give back, because that's how really we define success, right? Is the difference we make in this world.
That's right. And what I'll have to do, Elizabeth, I'll have to purchase a copy and read the book and then have you back for an analysis of the book, which we
There you go.
often do with a lot of our other guests. So we're already going to reserve another appearance.
Excellent. Well, I'm having you on my show too, so we've got a lot of talking to do ahead of us,
Yes,
JR.
we do. That's right. We're gonna get the message out there, and please go to Elizabeth's website and get that book if you're interested in being leaders. And that's exactly what we need today, Elizabeth. We need leaders to step up, holding our elected representatives accountable.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show the people as well your YouTube Jersey First TV channel.
Yes.
And you have some excellent guests on here. It's very similar to what we do with the Constitutional Republican Virtual Conversations. And you can see that you've had our state senator Michael Test on there. You've had the Senate leader Oraho on. And of course, we're very Greg Quinlan, who's a great friend of ours, was
course.
on. And
If you go to
had
the video
Senator
tab, I
Panaccio
think,
on. See,
yeah, go to the video tab, you'll see more, but next to the home tab there. Let me tell you the story about Jersey First TV. It was
sure.
Jersey First is actually a C4 that was established by Rosemary Becky. And as you remember, she ran for Congress
Right.
in the last
Yes.
go around here in 11. And she had this
Very
excellent
good candidate too.
Yes. And so she decided, she did very well. She came very close. But she decided to really, expand this organization, which is an advocacy group for New Jersey. And then we decided, I had already been doing interviews on a political show, and we decided then to establish through her group, Jersey First TV. So I'm excited that I've been doing that for a year with her. And then we recently brought on Fernando Uribe, who has had his own show as well. And, he's got a different approach, which we love. So I tend to do, you'll see kind of the shows I do. I'll do a lot of national issues and some DC issues, some, Congress people. But between Fernando and myself, we're trying to bring a lot of content to people in New Jersey and just things that we think they need to know about. So Jersey First TV is growing, and I think everyone should be watching it because there'll be another show that's going to be added soon from the youth, from the 20-something. So this is a growing media platform, and I think it fills a necessary space in New Jersey. So hopefully we'll continue to see that growth. I love doing it.
Well, it's certainly something that people who've not heard of what you're doing need to pay attention to, and to go to 103 subscribers. That needs to go up, folks. We need to subscribe to the channel. It's very important. That's how other people are made aware of Jersey First TV and Elizabeth and the great work that she does in interviewing. And incidentally, we had our State Senator Edward Durr. He's been coming to our Constitutional Republicans meetings for years, and Elizabeth was one of the few people, as NJCR was, in giving Ed some publicity prior to his monumental and historic win.
You and I have that in common. That's kind of fun. I think we'll always have that connection to Ed, who I'm sure we both adore. A great guy. And it's really neat that we got to both talk to him before he was all over every channel once he did win. So it's exciting. And boy, he really excites grassroots. They feel like it's what the founders intended. I have to tell you a cute story about Ed. I asked him to come speak at this event we're going to talk about on April 28th. Now, this event is 99% national voices, but we're doing a panel on winning elections in New Jersey, and really we're bringing in pollsters, and we'll talk about some of those interesting people that their names, to talk strategy. But I thought, wouldn't that be fun for Ed to be there? And I called Ed and I said, I called Senator Durr and I said, I really would love for you to come. And his response was, I need to check my trucking schedule. I'll let you know. And I thought, that's perfect. This is what the founders said. They wanted citizen legislators who came out of their day job for a limited amount of time, right? and served. And so
Mhm.
it was just such a fun response because it captures the essence of who he is, and the idea that I think has really illuminated and excited so many people that someone who's just one of us can win, right? And
That's
win
very
with
true.
a very formidable opponent. Let's both agree to that. So pretty exciting.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is truly a David versus Goliath story politically.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth, what I wanted to also highlight for the viewers tonight is the fact that under your Jersey First TV, you have sentiments there that are very, very aligned with the constitutional Republican sentiments, so almost identical language, which starts with education, educating, informing, and advocating for the people of New Jersey, which is very aligned with what the New Jersey constitutional Republicans are doing in educating our citizens on civics, the political theory of the American founding, the government derived from that political theory, and then restoring the initial principles of the Republican Party back within the Republican Party today. So there's a lot of commonality and common denominators between both organizations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we need both of us, right? We need you probably more than ever. I don't know if I told you 10 years ago that you would have to be fighting for some of these very basic ideals. You probably would have never thought we would have gotten to this point. So it's more important than ever that we educate people on and arm them with a knowledge of what their rights really are and what the Constitution really means. And you're an expert in that far more than I can be, but I certainly am aware of and in awe of what our founders did and understand that that's completely right now at risk if we don't understand it. When if I gave you $1 million, Jared, and I never told you about the bank account, then it means nothing to you. If you don't inform and teach people about the Constitution and the rights therein, then they actually don't have any rights. They actually can be stripped of them without even realizing it. So really important that
Very
you continue
true.
to do what you're doing.
Very true, Elizabeth. And I wouldn't sell yourself too short. I think you're pretty intelligent when it comes to our Constitution, our state constitution, and our history, that political theory that we talk about with our people. And one of the things that we discuss before we move on to your very, very important event that you're going to have is we're bringing back the ideas, Elizabeth, of the laws of nature and nature's God, which is the first statement of authority in the Declaration of Independence. And it's been forgotten and in many ways marginalized. And by reincorporating the ideas of the laws of nature and nature's God, we would clearly indicate that the Republican Party, in instituting a restoration of the laws of nature and nature's God, we are the party indeed of law and order.
Yes.
And of course, we've seen throughout the nation where law and order has been abrogated, and that those who are enforcing the law are considered criminals, and the criminals are considered victims.
Well,
so it's been turned up.
We knew that
Go
when we
ahead.
turned upside down, right, JR? It's what was predicted, the good would be called evil and evil would be called good. And it's funny you bring that up because the first chapter of my book is about really the laws of God. It's about the one thing we have control over. We only have control over one thing in this world, and that's our mind and our thoughts and how we direct it. And so in that chapter, I talk about the laws of nature, the laws of God, and how whether or not you believe in them, they are in operation and they are absolute. And you can either benefit from them or you can ignore them and to your own demise, but they are absolute laws and they are what holds this universe together in every way. Right. So it's funny you bring that up because that's the basis for truth, right? And which is why I talk about it in that first chapter.
It's our foundation, Elizabeth, and we could go on the rest of the conversation just talking about this point, but I want to talk about this event that you're going to have on April the 28th, 2022. You can go to the website. It's at the seat, a seat at the table, nj.org. And it's the first letters of each one of those words, ASATTNJ.org. We will provide a link to this event. And Elizabeth, this is going to be quite an event. And tell me about the impetus to this event, and what motivated you to create such an event and such an endeavor.
Endeavor is a good word. It is an endeavor. This has a great story behind it. So I have only been involved politically in New Jersey for 2 years, a little over 2 years. I've been in the medical freedom community for over 20 years and never realized it would become the issue of the day as it did during the pandemic. But back on January 13th, 2020, a bunch of medical freedom mothers and fathers were fighting in Trenton against a bill that would remove our religious exemption for our children for vaccinations. Now, this was happening across the nation, JR. It was an attempt by the pharma lobby. And as we see now, it was a setup for the coming pandemic to take away our rights. In this case, religious freedom, right? The right to make choices for what goes in your body based on your religious beliefs. Seems pretty fundamental, seems pretty American, sadly, very much under attack. And so we fought this. And a lot of us came out of I have 4 teenagers and several businesses and our busy lives, and not ever intending really to have to be advocates in this regard, but it woke us up. So we fought it. We did all the things that you do in grassroots, the emails, the meetings, the social media, all of this with our legislators. And would you know it, we came down to that evening, the last day of the session, January 13th. And as I'm saying this, all of the medical freedom fighters who were there remember this very clearly. We were outside JR for, 13 hours after all that work in the cold with our drums, with our megaphones. The Senate couldn't even hear themselves think. And Sweeney couldn't get that last vote. And he was 1 vote short. He closed the session. We won that battle. But the war raged on. And the next morning, I realized that they aren't going to stop. So a bunch of us said, it's time. And we ran for county committee. So the reason I tell you that story is in a short 2 years, I want to encourage people. In a short 2 years, many of us have been able to establish incredible relationships in the political world, in the grassroots world, have been able to put forth, many different efforts that have had success, and our voice has been heard in 2 short years. Now, in that time, several of us started going to CPAC. Of course, we know that Matt Schlapp and the ACU has put on this conservative conference for years. And we started attending that. And even within that environment where we have national speakers, we were able to create these relationships. And so myself and Marla Luciano and Alexandra Elliott, who are both on county committee with me in Morris County, established relationships with the Schlapps and then the Gorkas and then several other people. And we started to say to them, guys, New Jersey is worth fighting for. And they would say, oh man, you could never throw a conservative conference in New Jersey. We would never be able to do that. I said, no, it's worth it. I'm telling you, it's changing. It's not as blue as they say. And then we had the election in November, and down ballot, we did some pretty amazing things. We flipped seats, right? We gained in the assembly. We did, so many Board of Education seats, city council, the parents showed up and ran for some of these positions. And the story in November is really the win down ballot. So after that, we went back to them and we said, guys, we want to do something everyone says we can't do, which is bring in the conservative voices to New Jersey. And why do we want national voices? We want them to help us. We want to be encouraged and lifted up by that network. We want to be able to have them support us and vice versa. And instead of being in the island that New Jersey has sort of been on for so long in the conservative world, we believe that their voices make a difference here. So we started asking and they started saying yes. And so as you scroll down, you'll see a lot of familiar faces, right? And it's exciting. We also have Rosemary Becky is sponsoring, Bill Spady is sponsoring with Common Sense Club. But in terms, we've got Matt Rooney coming. But in terms of the national voices, we have Pastor Raphael Cruz, Ted Cruz's dad's coming for a prayer breakfast with Dr. Chuck Harding to talk about God and country. Very important. And then we will launch into a day of 6 different panels where we have experts, national experts talking about school choice, school issues. We have Gordon Chang talking about China and New Jersey. Matt Schlapp, of course, will be addressing us We'll have a panel led by Paul Teller, who is running Pence's C4 right now, and it'll be about advancing freedom in America. And Sebastian Gorka will be on that panel with Jonathan Gilliam and Jim Ellis. We've got some very smart pollsters. Robert Kalehi, who is the one who predicted Trump's win in 2016, Trafalgar Group is coming to talk to us on a panel with George Koloff, the Resolute Group, some really interesting people. Josh Aikens, of course, our own, will be there to talk about schools and school choice. He's a good friend. Well, he's such a good guy, and he's got a great voice, so he'll be there. He is. The co-founder of Moms for Liberty, Tiffany Justice, very, very impressive group nationwide, incredibly important. She'll be with us. We have the people who founded Run Gen Z, encouraging the youth to run for office and helping them do that. Really impressive organization. They will be with us. We will have a panel on election integrity. Matt Brainerd, who runs Look Ahead America and has a plan for a 6-point plan for fixing that, will be there, along with John Saravalli from the RNC, to talk about election integrity. I'm missing a lot of people, but Chad Connolly from Faith Wins, there's an interesting one. Chad Connolly, Faith Wins, is one of the most important part of Youngkin's win in Virginia. He has an organization that gets the churches registered to vote and out as poll workers. And the numbers that they did in Virginia were impressive and certainly added to the Youngkin win. So that gives you a taste. It's a lot, JR. It's a lot for one day. And it is in Somerset at the Palace, which is really kind of an intimate environment. You will be able to network with these people, make connections with them, hear from them, share ideas. So we have a prayer breakfast, we have the day event, and then we have a 2-hour cocktail, VIP cocktail hour. You can go to one of those, you can go to 2 of those, you can go to all 3 of those. So that's the event. It's incredibly exciting. And I say to all the conservatives listening and those who are, followers of yours and care about the Constitution and care about our freedoms, these are all incredible people. Not everyone agrees completely, but it's called a seat at the table. And the reason why is all of us keep saying that we just want a seat at the table. And I believe when we can bring those voices, even though each has a different view, together, we can come up with the solutions. We can save this country. And this is what we have to do. We have to create these environments where we connect, we find each other, and we learn how to work together toward a common goal.
And of course, here is the schedule, Elizabeth, for the itinerary of events. And as you said, you have some fine panel discussions lined up on winning elections, government, healthcare, and civil liberties. Another fine session will be the war on election integrity, which is very important. We are certainly in dire straits as a nation if our citizens do not have confidence in their vote and in the tally of votes and the means by which elections are being decided.
Right.
And of course, the mail-in voting has thrown a wrench into a lot. But we need, as Republicans, we need to outwork the Democrats on mail-in voting. And
that's right, JR.
We need to make sure that our elections have integrity and that there is no dispute. And then we go about and we are all confident in the integrity of the election, and then we can go about going about our business as a peaceful nation, always engaged in political, moving to the next administration peaceably, and doing what we can, even if the Democrats win, we still have to uphold the Constitution and uphold justice, liberty, as Lincoln said, Elizabeth, liberty to all, regardless of the outcome of our elections.
That is the truth.
There's the itinerary.
Yeah, and let me add to that. We also have congressional candidates coming. Of course, this is the big year of the midterm, and we wanted to support them. So those that could, and they're all just signing up now. Mike Crispy just signed up today. But those that can come are coming to meet all of the attendees, to meet the national speakers. We want to support our congressional candidates. And there was that other panel that I failed to kind of stop on for a moment, because it's funny how COVID sort of disappeared once the war in Ukraine started. But we are having a panel on government, healthcare, and civil liberties, because we believe that medical freedom is the civil liberty issue of our day. And we don't want to forget what happened in the last 24 months to our rights. So we have some interesting people on that panel. Hannah Cox is an expert, young, incredible woman, libertarian expert on the really the history of healthcare in this country, because if you really dig into it, it's not what you think, and it's not really an issue that allows us to be free. And so it set us up for some of this. So she's on that panel, but also Dr. Richard Ammerling, who's a frontline doctor, and Dr. Stephen Hatfield, very interesting guy who was in the center of a lot of these decisions that were made at the start of the pandemic. And he has an incredible viewpoint about government and the decisions made when the pandemic started, and some history there. So we're going to have a discussion about what does it mean to have civil liberties in the face of what happened these past 2 years, and how government has overreached into healthcare, and what did it mean before government got involved in our healthcare? What did the world look like? Because it didn't look like this, I can tell you that, JR. Healthcare was very different in the early 1900s, before the government got involved and before the government tied it to your employment. So all of that is a perspective, and I think that's an important perspective we need to have, because the lessons learned from these past 2 years are ominous. We cannot allow this kind of intrusion into our freedoms again.
Right, even up until the 1980s, with the creation of the health management organizations that the Congress passed, was the beginning of a dire situation, and essentially placing a middleman between the patient and the doctor.
Yeah.
And of course, the health management organization in many ways was an unconstitutional agency, as well as many of the administrative and bureaucratic agencies have been.
Yeah.
But I would be remiss, Elizabeth, if I didn't congratulate you and all those with you in stopping that mandated vaccine that Phil Murphy and the Democrats and Steve Sweeney wanted to impose upon the citizens of New Jersey. And it just goes to show what a determined, and of course, Samuel Adams spoke about, a determined few can make a large difference and a great influence on their representatives if they are passionate and using the tools by which the Constitution gives them, and the freedom of assembly and freedom of speech, and also protecting our religious liberties, which all is encompassed within the First Amendment. So I want to congratulate you on that fine job that was done, and really gave you a confidence and impetus to carry your devotion to freedom and liberty further, didn't it?
It did. And if you were to see the list of leaders who have made a massive impact in this state that fought during that time, a lot of women, and I have to tell you something, when you go against and go between a mother and her child, that is a certain kind of response that I think is unique, right? And mothers, at the end of the day, I think are the ones, and we need our fathers, we need strong fathers, but the mothers, certainly have a hand in changing things. And that's what happened then. And we have some incredible medical freedom leaders that came out of that. In fact, there is now a PAC, NJ5 PAC, that was founded as a result of that fight, which focuses on medical freedom issues and works with legislators to ensure that they support those issues. So much has happened in 2 years, and many people, and that's why I say, don't give up on New Jersey. We can celebrate our red states all day long, but if we don't stop the cancer at its source and start to change things in what they like to call the blue states. Now, I challenge this, because I say, when we look at registrations and we see that we have, pretty much an equal number of unaffiliated with Democrats, and of course, 1 million less registered Republicans, I challenge people that would say that makes us moderate. I want to say that, as proven in Virginia, I believe that independents agree with social conservative issues. I really do. They don't want their rights taken away. They don't want their children to be taught things in school that belong at the kitchen table. They have a sense of what their rights are, and they want those. And so, we assume that independents or unaffiliated are somehow in the middle, as though that is a position that they have. I disagree. And I think what we're proving in other places in this country is that they just need to understand that while we have a two-party system, really, and that's the only thing that's really going to work that I can see, It's the Republicans now who are fighting for those civil liberties, the Republicans who are now
Mhm.
the party of the blue collar, the working man and woman, the party that wants the family intact, the party that's fighting
Mhm.
for common sense values. So I believe that Jersey is changing. And if they simply, those that have either exited the political process or simply don't want to identify with the party, start to understand what the Republicans are putting forth, and really the new Republicans even, right? Those that are trying to even change the GOP, that they will start to understand that they do align with us and that we do represent them. And that's a lot of these people that fought in Trenton. You know, it wasn't about being Republican or Democrat. It was about fighting for our rights as parents. And now look where it has gone, JR. Now we're talking about
Mhm.
keeping this disgusting curriculum out of the schools that was just passed without any influence from parents, but influence from special interest groups. And Tammy Murphy, we're teaching horrible things starting in kindergarten. We're doing things without parental consent.
Oh.
This has to stop. And to that vein, I want to tell you, Common Sense Club, I work with Bill Spadia in his C4, and he has sponsored legislation, a parental Bill of Rights in New Jersey. And the prime sponsors, Christian Baranko, Beth Sawyer in the Assembly, and a few others, I think Hal Werthers and
Mhm.
Parker Space, and then Mike Testa in the Senate, and there'll be some more sponsoring and priming that bill. Listen, we have to get to the point where we actually have to fight for, reestablish, and actually list what are our basic rights as parents. I mean, this is where we are at in this country. So every parent needs to wake up, understand that we had exited the public schools. We have been busy working and raising our families, and their left-wing progressive agenda entered that school system years ago, decades ago. And it's been a slow change that has heightened in the past 24 months. It's time to wake up and understand that they want your children, they want to indoctrinate them, and we have to fight for the basic rights now that we took for granted forever. And it's time for every parent to ask for that, demand that.
That's right. And Elizabeth, the New Jersey Constitutional Republicans throughout the month of March and also the month of April, we've actually been teaching our citizens about critical theory and about critical race theory and about cultural Marxism. These issues and what the left is attempting to do has not occurred overnight. As you said, it's taken decades. It's actually 100 years. There have been cultural Marxists like Georgi Lukács, who was teaching in the Hungarian nation, 1919, the Bela Kun government. He actually started to initiate deviant sexual norms. And that correlates with Antonio Gramsci, who is the godfather of cultural Marxism, saying that the family and education have to be ripped apart and have to be given a whole new hegemony, if you will, or a whole new means by which to transform culture away from historical, traditional Judeo-Christian beliefs. And the one way to do that is to teach the children about premarital sex, and that there is no such thing as marriage, and that there is no, and when you get rid of these, essentially what it is, Elizabeth, is a war against the laws of nature, and nature's God.
Correct.
And so if they believe that if they can indoctrinate the children, that they will be much more susceptible to accepting communism and
That's
Marxism.
Right. That's right.
And of course, those worldviews disclude the very existence of God, which is folly, as we all well know. But it is so encouraging that your organization too is working to put the truth and the laws of nature back in within our educational systems. But we believe, the Constitutional Republicans, it's important for the people to actually know the people, the history, the personalities, the beliefs, the goals, the objectives of the critical theorists.
Right.
And that's why we've cultivated such a great relationship with James Lindsay, who's a national figure, really a world figure now, and one of the top scholars in explaining critical theory. I remember when we talked about cultural Marxism back in 2015, and a lot of people, Elizabeth, looked at me like I had three eyes. but
Well,
now it's
here it
all
is.
over the place, and we're very glad that people are being educated.
I want to build on something you talked about, which is the means by which you change culture. And it's by
Hmm.
getting into the minds really of the children. And it's
Hmm.
interesting going back to what I do at my core, which is about mindset and limiting beliefs. One of the basic ideas there is that, and I say this constantly, we try to get you back to who you were created to be before the world told you otherwise. We come into this world with a purpose and a destiny and opportunity and special gifts, and then things start to change for us because we start to believe lies that we're told. And those lies, any lie told by a position of authority, a person of authority in your life, any lie told repeatedly becomes your truth. And so I want you to think about these children that are sitting there in these classrooms. And so,
Hmm.
they're listening to these lies, and they're building, almost imagine, a scaffolding of their life around these lies. And so they have these limiting beliefs
Hmm.
about who they are, about who God is, about who they're supposed to be, what their rights are. We're just injecting all of these lies into this child who came into the world with so much opportunity. And then as adults, we spend the rest of our lives trying to counter those lies, really, and overcome them in order to achieve our purpose. So I want you to think about that in the context of the indoctrination, because if we can inject enough lies, look what's happened in the last 2 years, all the lies, it's so hard to find the truth. The lies that are being told all over the place, what is the truth, right? And so the
Hmm.
manipulation of information. So if we can do that to children, that's what they intend. And then these children are then really living under this burden of a entire worldview created from lies. And we're expecting
Hmm.
that not to completely demolish our culture. I mean, we have to protect our children. We have to do this now. And like you said, it has been 100 years. But with God's help, I think, and parents standing up, I believe that we can make change. We're gonna do it. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. I'll tell you that, JR. I'm not giving up.
That's right, Elizabeth. And what's also interesting to consider is that we are waging war against a multi-headed Leviathan.
Mm,
It's not only the critical theorist and the cultural Marxists, but it's also the preeminence and the influence of postmodernism and
right.
postmodern philosophy. Jacques
Yep.
Derrida, Lyotard, and some of the other French philosophers who were very disgruntled that communism didn't take hold on the world. And that's why these cultural Marxists have tried to go through culture, through cultural hegemony. And these postmodern thinkers were so disgusted with what is known as vulgar Marxism, which we saw with the tens of millions of people killed by Mao and Stalin and
Right.
Pol Pot and communists like them, Castro included. And they were very discouraged. They said, well, if Marxism isn't going to work, then all is nihilism. There is no, everything is absurd and there is no truth.
Right.
And this thinking has enveloped our society. And this is why it's so important to restore the idea to people that there is a culmination of history. There is purpose to everything that occurs, that there
Well,
is
history
God's. That's
is
right.
everything,
History is
right?
his story. Right.
I mean, and
Exactly.
it's his story. And also, now it's interesting when you talk, I think about so many things. The assault on history started quite a while ago, the assault on teaching it,
Revisionism.
right? And then we started tearing down. So we know all of that. And when you think about it, we sort of had accepted the fact that they would assault the minds of college students because that's been going on for a while. And it's almost become like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they go to that college, they go in conservative, they come out liberal. But they didn't stop with the colleges. That's been happening for a while. Now they're bringing it down, grades down to kindergarten, right? So that assault
Mm-hmm.
started from that all the way down. And so it's not just enough now to be concerned about. I've heard so many parents say to me, I raised my child this way. I sent him or her off to college. They came back liberal, right? And it's not until 10 years later when they start paying taxes in earnest that they suddenly
Mm-hmm.
go back to being a conservative.
Conservative.
But that became almost a norm in society where we sort of said, yeah, well, that's what the institutions do of higher learning. It's way beyond that, guys. We're way down to kindergarten now. And
Mm-hmm.
and if we don't understand the history and we don't look at that and we keep people in the dark about it, then
Yes.
then they'll just be told what they're told and they'll believe it. So it's urgent that we teach history. We teach the Constitution. I think I told you about it. There's an effort called Constituting America. That's another group that's trying to get the Constitution back into the school. I know Hillsdale is doing something as well. And I'm seeing a lot of these groups come together trying to inject the truth about the Constitution and teaching it well. And really, it's one thing to just teach it, JR, but you also have to explain things like, what is the separation between church and state? It's not what you think it is. I mean, there's so many misnomers about the Constitution and our founding documents and the intention of the founding fathers. So it's teaching, it's history, it's all these things that we've got to get a hold of now while we were busy building our lives. And, you look at the family and you look at how it's being destroyed, and you also look at the economic pressures and parents needing 2 incomes because of that, taking their eye off the ball and the pressure that they have. All of a sudden now, COVID, people are home watching the Zoom classes and saying, you're teaching my children that? That's the good thing that came out of the last 2 years.
Yes, there certainly is a silver lining to that. But Elizabeth, as we wind down, I want the people to know that how hard you have worked and those helping you with this event, and how imperative it is for conservatives, for Republicans, for independents. Yes, independents should be attending this event. I, for one, am going to be looking forward to networking and talking to Mr. and Mrs. Schlapp about a possible appearance at CPAC next year to preach the Republican gospel, if you will.
I love it.
So I'm looking forward to that. And please, our audience, sign up for this event, support it, and tell others. Tell your family about it. Tell your friends about it. Tell people who are interested in politics about this event. And we will be posting the links so that you're able to sign up. Will people be able to sign up right to the day of, Elizabeth?
They want to give me agita and do that. I'm not going to stop them, but it's easier when it's a big event. And there are a lot of moving parts. If they can sign up soon, we had a very generous donor give us some money. So we dropped the ticket price by 30%. There's a code there, freedom. You put that in and it drops the ticket price. But here's what I want to say. We told these national voices that Jersey is worth it. We promised them that the conservatives would show up and the independent thinkers who believe in our basic Constitution and social conservative issues. We told them they will show up. Trust me, they will show up. So I'm saying this to all of you. We need you to show up. We want to be right about that. We want to do it again. We want them to keep coming back, and we want them to go back to their home states and have a buzz about what's happening in New Jersey. Because if we can change things here, which we will continue to do, it is great hope for the nation. And it's time that they see that all is not lost. So show up. Don't make me a liar, guys. Show up. I told them you would, but I promise you that the cost of this ticket pales. It's nothing in comparison with what you're going to get in the education and the information and the excitement and the motivation and the connections and all of that CPAC creates. If anyone's been there, you come back, we call it a CPAC high. You feel like you can change the world. We want to inject that into Somerset, New Jersey for all of our friends. So please, April 28th, a seat at the table. It's ASAT, ASATTNJ.org is what the website is. So buy tickets now, please, if you may, and invite your friends.
Well, it's certainly going to be a worthy event, and one that we all should be attempting to attend. I'm looking forward to it. Now, I have to ask you one personal question before you leave, Elizabeth.
Okay.
And it concerns your last name.
Yes.
Now, I would assume that's your married name, but are you in any way, or is your husband in any way related to Ralph Nader?
Yes. Well, whenever someone asks me that, I always immediately know that we're in the similar age range, right? Because people that are younger than us don't ask that question since he's been off the scene for a while. Let me tell you this, my husband, I want to tell you this as we end. I'm a daughter of the American Revolution. As I told you before, I was raised with incredible patriotism. My family goes back to before fighting in the Revolutionary War. I am married to a legal immigrant who grew up in Lebanon. His last name is actually Abbey Nader. And when he became a citizen in America, he moved that to the middle and he's now Nader. So Ralph Nader is also likely, when he goes back to his roots in Lebanon, and Abby Nader.
Yeah.
So certainly there's probably some relation. Of course, that country is one of the oldest, goes back thousands and thousands of years. But what I want to end with, and it's a good question, is, I tell my children that our marriage is what America really is about, because we have the combination of a family that fought, for everything that we have in this country. And we have my husband, who grew up with stars in his eyes, in love with Ronald Reagan, wanted to come here more than anything, and was blown up in the US Embassy in 1983 in Beirut, one of 3 to survive, because he was getting his papers to come here. He would do anything to come to America. And he did. And he came to America, and he's living that dream. And he is equally concerned, because he's seen this movie before, what's happened to his country. So having said that, that's the Nader name. I'm proud to bear it. And I'm really happy that I have that as part of our family tree.
Well, that's a fantastic story, Elizabeth, and one that would tug at anyone's patriotic heart. And of course, just for those who may not know about Ralph Nader was a longtime consumer advocate and did great work. Was very, very thorough. He was an intellect. He actually ran for office, and he was a little bit left of center politically, but he did care about the consumers and those who were buying. But Elizabeth, it's been a great pleasure to have you on. I think we could talk for a couple of more hours, but you have a lot to do in getting.
I don't think anyone would listen after that, JR. I'm not sure they would listen that long. But the good news is you're going to be on Jersey First soon, so we'll be able to do that. I'll see you on the 28th. So I think we're just beginning. We'll have plenty more opportunities.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to have met you, and I haven't shaken your hand yet. I look forward to doing that. I did see you at the NJGOP Leadership Summit, but I was tied up with another virtual conversation. But thank you so much, Elizabeth. And please, our audience, please sign up for this event. I'll provide the links. You're going to be very glad you did, and you'll be very enthused as a result of attending this fine event. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for coming tonight.
Thank you again, JR. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you to everyone for watching.
Thank you very much. And we always end, Elizabeth, with the words of Abraham Lincoln, our mentor. And he said, "Liberty to all, everyone." Thank you. Have a good night.
Goodbye.